The Galactic Empire had stood unchallenged for over 6,000 years. Built atop the ruins of thousands of subjugated civilizations, its reach extended across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. Laws passed in its core worlds dictated the future of entire species. Trade, culture, and warfare were all filtered to the bureaucracy, a ruling caste that had long ceased to see others as anything more than manageable subjects. When Earth was finally granted partial recognition, it was done so with disdain and arrogance. Humanity had arrived late. The Empire assumed their inclusion was a formality. One more Death World species tamed. One more exotic culture slowly ground into compliance. But humans were different. They didn't bow as easily. They argued too much. They questioned everything. And worst of all, they remembered everything. The galactic bureaucracy assigned Earth a cluster of frontier systems, resource-rich, politically irrelevant. To them, it was a gesture of goodwill. To Earth, it was a proving ground. The colonies flourished in record time. Terraforming cycles were accelerated with techniques that baffled their neighbors. Trade routes stabilized. Human cultural exports spread rapidly. Where other species bowed to the Empire's subtle coercion, humans stood apart, not in rebellion, but in refusal to bend. At the center of Earth's interstellar diplomacy stood Ambassador Evelyn Cross. She was not born in an embassy or a royal house. Her background was military, special operations, intelligence, counterterrorism. After retiring from service, she transitioned into diplomacy with a sharp mind and an unshakable presence. She was respected, but not beloved. Her demeanor was cold, efficient, surgical. When she spoke, other delegates listened. She never raised her voice. She never had to. The tensions began on Tarsa 9. Tarsa 9 was a mixed administration colony, governed by both Earth and the Empire under joint treaty. Earth had built the primary infrastructure: schools, hospitals, hydroponic farms. The Empire provided oversight and military protection. The arrangement was strained, but functional. The human school on Tarsa 9, named New Horizons, housed over 200 students, most of them human, some hybrid, a few native Tarsan children under human instruction. The curriculum emphasized peace, cooperation, and post-war rehabilitation. A month before the atrocity, reports of unrest began surfacing. Imperial patrols were increasing. Teachers noticed surveillance drones hovering too long. Children described soldiers asking invasive questions. One teacher filed a formal concern when a 6-year-old was interrogated about Earth's emergency evacuation plans. Earth's embassy raised objections. The Empire responded with silence. On the 17th of November, the school stopped transmitting. The emergency beacon activated for 12 seconds before going offline. No calls were answered. No distress signals returned. The orbital satellite went dark. The images arrived 3 hours later. A galactic news channel broadcast a heavily edited version of an insurrection on Tarsa 9. The footage showed smoke rising from the school. Drones panned over charred walls and collapsed ceilings. The voiceover claimed separatist militants had taken over the compound, and that Imperial security forces had neutralized the threat. No mention was made of the children. No names listed. No survivors shown. But someone had leaked the raw footage. Within hours, the uncut version spread across Earth's networks. It was not an insurgent uprising. It was a massacre. The footage showed armored Imperial troops entering the school unopposed. No weapons were visible. Children were gathered in the cafeteria, instructed to remain still. Teachers stood between them and the soldiers, hands raised. One man, a teacher named Marcus Run, begged them not to fire. He was the first to fall. Then the woman beside him. Then chaos. The soldiers opened fire at point-blank range. Children screamed. Blood soaked the floor tiles. A security drone captured the entire scene before its feed was cut. No warning. No trial. No survivors. Earth's networks erupted. Within 2 hours, 10 million humans had watched the footage. Within 6, the number rose to 2 billion. Protests ignited across the colonies. Every embassy demanded answers. The Empire issued a cold statement blaming a local separatist cell and claimed all actions were within peacekeeping protocol. No apology, No accountability. Just a line of text. The situation has been contained. Evelyn Cross received the footage while sitting in a diplomatic session in orbit above Caliph Prime. She said nothing for 30 seconds. Then she stood. The room fell silent. Without protocol, without request, she walked to the center of the chamber and activated the galaxy-wide diplomatic broadcast. Every delegate's console flickered. Every translation node lit up. Her face appeared across thousands of systems, calm, still, unmoving. She stared directly into the lens. "We warned you," she said. Her voice was level, quiet, flat. "We warned you not to target our civilians. We warned you not to cross that line. You mocked us for caring about children. You called it weakness. You took 200 lives that trusted your word. They were not soldiers. They were not insurgents. They were children. And now we respond." The room buzzed. Her voice cut through it. Effective immediately, Earth revokes its diplomatic presence from all Imperial systems. All treaties are nullified. All shared ventures terminated. All ambassadors recalled. Our representatives will evacuate by this time tomorrow. After that, any attempt to contact Earth through Imperial channels will be treated as hostile interference. The Sylith delegate protested. She raised her hand. "You do not declare war against the Empire without authorization," he hissed. Evelyn didn't look at him. "I'm not asking for permission," she said. "This isn't diplomacy anymore. You crossed the only line that matters." Her eyes hardened. A slight pause. "You touched our children." She stepped back. The transmission cut. Panic swept the chamber. Some species erupted in debate. Others withdrew immediately. The Galactic Empire's high command was caught off guard. Not because they didn't expect outrage, but because they didn't believe humans capable of sustained war at scale. They believed Earth's response would be limited, symbolic, contained. They were wrong. Earth didn't broadcast troop movements. It didn't threaten retaliation. It simply went silent. No messages, no signals, no warnings. Trade lanes shut down. Satellite systems encrypted. Orbital defense grids activated. The humans didn't prepare for war. They enacted it. Imperial analysts scrambled to understand a lack of response. Reports from fringe systems grew stranger. Blackout zones. Abandoned relay stations. Scavengers found entire research outposts emptied. Equipment missing. Personnel gone. Human ships passed without IFF codes. Some reported seeing entire fleets moving under silent warp, coordinated with no visible network traffic. Imperial intelligence demanded an audience with Earth's last remaining liaison. They received only one message, a single line embedded in a quantum signature. "We will answer blood with silence and silence with annihilation." His silence from Earth lasted exactly 30 days. Not a signal, not a transmission, not even civilian chatter. Every diplomatic line was cut. Every embassy returned to Earth without ceremony. Interstellar diplomats called it isolation. Imperial analysts called it stalling. But Evelyn Cross knew it for what it was. Preparation. Earth's internal networks remained locked behind quantum encryption. Orbital traffic was restricted. Civilian traffic rerouted to deep system platforms. Across the colonies, reserves were activated. Former veterans received private notices. Emergency drills began in silence, unannounced to avoid panic. No announcements. No news broadcasts. Just coordination. Calm. Exacting. Unyielding. On the 29th day, the orbital shipyard over Mars came online at full capacity. The Soul Core Mobilization Act was triggered. 27 military dry docks lit up. No speeches. No declarations. Only a quiet efficiency that alarmed every external observer who watched the patterns. The Empire, convinced of its invincibility, dismissed it as posturing. 2 days later, the Terran Navy restructured its fleets under wartime protocol. Logistics algorithms recompiled old contingency plans, some dating back to the pre-FTL era. Redacted operations, classified beyond clearance levels, were activated. Resources redirected. Personnel reassigned. The human war machine stirred from dormancy. The High Assembly released one global directive to all Terran systems. Black Protocol enacted, all stations, military and civilian, would operate under autonomous defensive discretion until further notice. Communication with alien systems was prohibited. Violation was considered treason. Within hours, Earth's colonies adapted. There was no resistance. There was no confusion. Everyone knew why. They had seen the children. Evelyn Cross walked the central war bridge of the Polaris Ascendant, Earth's first interstellar flagship. She had refused titles, but she held the authority of command by universal consensus. When the footage from Tarsa 9 had circulated, the civilian government gave her full authority without vote. She didn't want control. She wanted precision. That required silence. That required fear. That required a human touch. The Empire dispatched envoys. They were ignored. They issued warnings. They were intercepted. Their ships disassembled. Crews returned unharmed with neural implants erased. The message was clear. Earth wasn't negotiating. Earth was waiting. In the outer rim, border patrols started disappearing. Small listening outposts, standard for watching human movements, ceased reporting. Orbital telescopes caught brief flashes in the darkness. Entire installations vanished. No explosions. No wreckage. Just absence. Then came the Battle of Virex Station. Virex was a deep space command relay between the inner core and outer territories. Fortified, guarded, and considered impregnable. 3 days after Black Protocol, it ceased transmission. The Empire dispatched a fleet. They found debris scattered in a perfect ring around where the station had been. All surveillance footage deleted. Command AI corrupted. A single escape pod drifted nearby with a human child's voice repeating the words. We remember. Panic didn't set in at first. The Empire believed it to be terrorism. Limited in scale. Temporary. They underestimated Earth's intent. Again, they sent scouts toward Earth's colonies. Each scout reported nothing unusual. Then each vanished exactly 27 minutes after arrival. No known weapon signatures. No heat trails. No survivors. The data they gathered never reached headquarters. The Empire lost 7 vessels before realizing Earth had rewritten the encryption baseline of an entire network architecture. No alien system could even parse their signals anymore. Humanity had disappeared in plain sight. Then came the message. It wasn't a speech. It wasn't a demand. It was a sequence of symbols sent through subspace, decrypted using a shared emergency protocol, only ever intended for existential threats. It translated to a single line. For every child you killed, a command structure will fall. The line was traced back to over 400 quantum points simultaneously. The Empire's central systems flagged it as an impossibility. Then their own message systems collapsed. Coordinated cyber infiltration destroyed command routing tables. Security relays failed. Ships couldn't contact home bases. AI governance systems went blind. One admiral described it as drowning in data with no air to breathe. On the Empire's border world of Halkaran, the first ground incursion occurred. Empire forces stationed there found their systems overridden, weapons deactivated. Defense grids looped visual data, showing empty skies while drop pods fell silently through the atmosphere. The entire base was neutralized in under 5 minutes. Not destroyed, emptied. Every soldier incapacitated. Every weapon missing. Every file wiped. The only thing left was a list of names. 200 of them, children from Tarsa 9. A secondary list below it named the commanding officers of the base. All marked deceased. A ripple spread across the galactic military intelligence community. Earth hadn't just prepared for war. They had trained for revenge. Not the conquest of territory. Not population reduction. Vengeance in its purest form. Precise. Surgical. Relentless. The Empire responded with escalation. 6 battlecruisers sent to hold key jump points vanished. Their navigational data later recovered, corrupted by recursive logic viruses. Human cyber warfare used tactics no one had seen. Viral code that embedded itself into thought routines of biological minds, inducing anxiety, dread, even hallucinations. Veteran crews began reporting dreams of children screaming in their sleep. The Empire declared psychological warfare illegal in response. The declaration arrived too late. 3 of its top strategic officers took their own lives within the same week. On the diplomatic front, silence endured. The Galactic Assembly demanded Earth return to negotiations. The motion passed. Earth did not acknowledge it. The Assembly tried to contact Evelyn Cross through back channels. They received a file of photographs. Each image showed a child from the school. Birthday dates. Smiling faces. None older than 12. No message. Just images. Across the galaxy, public opinion shifted. Not in sympathy. In fear. Earth wasn't retaliating in a conventional sense. They weren't invading. They weren't occupying. They were removing the ability to wage war from their enemy piece by piece. No grand proclamations. No planet scorched. Just a quiet disassembly of power. Species once aligned with the Empire began distancing themselves. Trade routes were rerouted. Embassies closed. The Valid Collective publicly condemned the massacre. The Rixari Council declared neutrality and began reinforcing their own borders, fearing Earth might look their way next. Then came the Anchor event. Anchor 5 was an Imperial communications nexus, untouched, unprovoked, so the Empire believed it had never housed a human, never hosted a human ambassador. Still, Earth struck, not with weapons, but with silence. The entire planet's communication array was cut off in under 12 seconds. Power grids shut down. Memory cores erased. Ships above lost gravity and began drifting. Ankar's entire government went offline, all without a single shot fired. 6 hours later, a drone arrived and dropped one object, a small, intact lunchbox bearing the school emblem from Tarsa 9. The Empire had lost strategic control of over 200 systems before it fully acknowledged what had happened. The infrastructure that once governed trillions now hung disconnected and broken. Its fleets, scattered across systems they no longer recognized, found their navigational relays disrupted, supply chains severed, and coordination impossible. What hadn't been destroyed was made obsolete. What hadn't been captured was abandoned. Humanity hadn't fought like conquerors. They hadn't taken territory. They hadn't flown banners. They simply removed everything in the way and then disappeared into the dark. The Empire tried to rebuild command nodes. Each time, they were compromised within days. Attempts to re-establish AI control failed. Earth's cybernetic footprint lingered in every circuit they touched, buried like a virus that didn't destroy but observed, waited, and reacted. Rumors circulated in high command. They said Earth had trained AI to hunt, not destroy, but stalk and paralyze. Programs that studied human grief and modeled vengeance as logic trees. Systems that didn't attack first, but waited for decisions and responded with proportional erasure. Every major official responsible for Tarsa 9 was already dead. Some were executed. Others died in inexplicable accidents. One was found floating in an escape pod near a dead moon, eyes wide open, brain intact, heart stopped from sheer terror. The Empire's Supreme Fleet Admiral, a veteran of 20 campaigns, resigned and fled to a neutral system. He disappeared weeks later. A Terran signal burst transmitted his final words. They do not kill like soldiers. They dismantle like surgeons. And they don't forget anything. The galaxy began documenting the fall in quiet tones. It wasn't a war. It was a reckoning. Empire worlds turned silent. Unused ports. Cities without lights. Surveillance systems that repeated a single audio loop of children reciting poems. Entire moons marked with planetary-wide carvings of names. Not threats. Not demands. Just names. The turning point came at Core Val, the Empire's final military bastion. Deep within the central core, hundreds of capital ships circled the system. Reinforced planetary shields. Redundant fusion cores. Dozens of defensive layers thought impenetrable. Every simulation projected Earth would never risk attacking it head-on. It was the last safe place. For 3 days, the system's long-range sensors flickered with strange anomalies. Phantom objects, ghost signals, calculations that showed nothing approaching and yet everything changing. The sensors began registering impossible readings. Temperatures below 0 Kelvin, Signal delays that shouldn't occur, sound signatures with no origin. On the fourth day, the stars went out. It wasn't darkness. It was redirection. Light was bent. Sensors turned inward. Navigation lost orientation. Command AI began looping failure messages. Crew members heard whispering. Recorded hallucinations in the system logs later found to be fragmented Terran nursery rhymes. When the human fleet arrived, it didn't announce itself. The orbital defense platforms didn't fire. The ships didn't look like vessels. They looked like floating obelisks. Silent, matte black, no propulsion trails, no heat signatures. Their surfaces reflected no known material. The command crew stared at them through observation windows and didn't see motion, just presence. One by one, the defenses failed, not from attack, but paralysis. Power grids shut down. Missile bays froze. Pilots screamed that their controls moved by themselves. Gunships collided without explanation. The last defense station fired a single round, and its own weapon turned inward. Then Earth transmitted one signal. A child's voice, reading from a school essay. My name is Lyra. I want to be a teacher someday. I like colors and plants and building things. My favorite food is toast with honey. I think when people fight, they forget what it feels like to be small. So I want to grow up and remind them. It was her actual voice, recorded before her death, unfiltered. Then came the image, a still frame of her, age 7, smiling with missing front teeth, arms outstretched, with paint on her hands. Beneath the photo was a date and time, the hour of the massacre. Core Val surrendered without a single shot. Within minutes, every human ship vanished. Not cloaked, gone. No trails, no energy spike, no warp signature, gone. The Empire's final stronghold collapsed, not from destruction, but evacuation. The command hierarchy broke. Chain of leadership dissolved. Officers began abandoning their posts, fleeing to outer systems, disguising their identities, begging for sanctuary in independent territories. The Central Empire was dead. All that remained was scattered wreckage and planetary governments unsure who was next. Evelyn Cross released her second and final message. To the children of Tarsa 9, we have remembered your names. We have answered injustice. We will carry you with us until the stars burn out. To those who stayed silent, this is your warning. Do not follow the same path. The price will be higher next time. Humanity does not seek vengeance forever, but we will never allow it to go unanswered. Then she gave a list of names. Every child, one by one, spoken aloud. Their birthdays, their dreams, their favorite colors. Their voices heard again. The feed ended. Across the galaxy, memorials were erected, not by humans, but by alien species who feared ever being mistaken for those who allowed the slaughter. Neutral systems declared permanent ceasefires. Trade organizations barred imperial symbols. Libraries banned documents that denied Tarsa 9. The event was not just historic. It became sacred, a reminder that the youngest of the galactic civilizations had shown the oldest what consequence truly meant. Humanity returned to silence. It made no demands, claimed no territory. It offered no leadership. The High Assembly of Earth forbade military presence beyond its own systems unless provoked. It rejected suggestions of empire building. Evelyn Cross declined every request for future alliances, titles, or honors. She returned to Earth and retired in a small agricultural community near the Alps. When asked why she refused power, her answer was simple. There are no medals worth what we lost. In the decade that followed, the name Evelyn Cross became myth to some, curse to others. Her silence echoed longer than her words. She had done what no one thought possible, not simply by wielding force, but by calculating justice to the decimal. Children across Terran space now learned history differently, not as glory, not as war, but as warning. What began as a massacre ended as transformation. Earth became not feared for its weapons, but for its restraint, for what happened only when it chose to act. A generation passed. The Empire did not return. The galactic map changed. Borders shifted. Coalitions were formed. But every major star system still taught the same lesson. Never provoke a death world. Never mistake diplomacy for weakness. And never, ever touch what they hold dear. In the place where New Horizon School once stood, Earth rebuilt it, not for propaganda, but for children, and carved into the entrance, beneath the new gate, etched in a dozen languages and preserved in crystal, were the words that reshaped the galaxy. They were only children, and we were only human.